If you ever want to know what helpless rage feels like, try standing in your own yard while a roaring bulldozer lowers its blade and starts digging into land you legally own while the HOA board stands 20 yards away, clapping like they just opened a new park. That was my Monday morning. And if you're wondering how a normal guy like me ended up blocking heavy machinery with nothing but a pair of pajama pants and pure panic, well, let me take you back. My name is Graham Kepler. I'm a freelance cartographer. Yes, that's still a job, and I bought 4 acres of land outside the Juniper Bend. HOA, because I like trees' silence and not being told what shade of beige my trash bins should be. I picked this land carefully, checked the recorded plat, checked the HOA boundaries, triple-checked the deed. It was supposed to be my escape from rules committees and people who write emails longer than war treaties because someone put the wrong kind of mailbox up. And then there was Priscilla Mott. Priscilla is the kind of HOA president who wears a reflective safety vest to her own husband's barbecue just in case. She speaks like she's permanently refereeing a middle school basketball game, sharp bursts of sound that pierce your soul. And in her mind, the universe, or at least Juniper Bend, operates on one rule. Because she said so. She started small like all villains do. A letter complaining that my scrub oak trees clashed with the coastal palate of the community. Another letter asking me to remove my private property signs because they projected hostile energy. Then a third written on HOA letterhead with a gold-embossed border so shiny it probably cost half their annual dues, informing me that my land was causing sightline disruption for the neighborhood. Sightline disruption. From trees that had been there 100 years before her HOA even existed, I replied politely. My land is outside your jurisdiction. She replied aggressively by having her husband deliver a 7 a.m. lecture on visual stewardship while I stood in my bathrobe holding a mug of coffee I wasn't awake enough to weaponize. 2 days later came a glossy brochure, the Community Meadow Initiative, complete with pastel renderings showing families picnicking under my trees, kids flying kites on my hills, and a color-coded site map shading my land in gentle green like it had belonged to them since birth. I sent back the deed, the survey, and the firmest "no" a cartographer can write. That's when things went from annoying to creepy. My survey stakes vanished sometimes overnight. Orange HOA marking flags appeared on my side of the property line, always 6 inches in. I caught a man with a clipboard, Priscilla's brother-in-law, it turned out stepping over my fence to measure pine trees for view corridors. On Nextdoor, Priscilla posted that I had illegally annexed HOA green space. Neighbors I had never met were suddenly calling me selfish, hostile, uncooperative. One said I should be reported to code enforcement. Another said I was ruining their property values. Always the classic HOA battle cry. But the worst part wasn't the posts. It was the doubt creeping in late at night. Was I being stubborn? Was it worth fighting everyone on all sides? I kept telling myself this is my land, documented and recorded. They can't actually do anything. Then came the sound. A low rumble at dawn, tires on gravel gears, grinding diesel engines coughing awake. I thought at first it was road work. Then the headlights swept across my window. A bulldozer, a skid steer, a flatbed loaded with rolls of sod, and a pickup truck with Juniper Bend HOA magnets slapped on both doors. I walked outside in my socks, heart pounding, holding my phone with the plat map pulled up. And standing at the head of this ridiculous HOA parade was Priscilla herself, wearing her yellow reflective HOA operations vest, holding a megaphone, waving a letter stamped with a clip art eagle. She looked like she was about to direct planes on a runway. "We are commencing emergency common area reclamation," she shouted. "Your underbrush is a fire hazard, and you are obstructing community sightlines." I swear every board member behind her nodded like she was delivering a presidential address. Before I could get a single coherent word out, the bulldozer revved its engine and lowered the blade toward my posted buffer zone. Chunks of earth undergrowth and pieces of my fence posts lifted like they weighed nothing. A deep trench carved itself across my land, my private property, while the HOA sipped protein shakes and watched. I ran straight in front of the bulldozer, barefoot, half asleep, adrenaline doing all the thinking for me. I held up my phone shouting, "This is private property. I have the recorded survey right here." The operator hesitated. He actually stopped, until Priscilla stormed forward and shrieked through the megaphone, "Ignore him. He's trespassing on community land. Continue the operation." Trespassing on my own land. I told her she was orchestrating criminal trespass and property destruction. She laughed, actually laughed. Then she picked up her phone, dialed 911, and told the dispatcher I was aggressive, threatening, and obstructing community maintenance operations. I stood there in pajama pants, holding a deed. And for a moment, a painful, heavy moment, I felt something crack inside me. This whole neighborhood hated me. The HOA was treating my land like it was theirs since birth. A bulldozer was carving up the place I'd dreamed of living in. And Priscilla had everyone believing her version of reality, not mine. I felt small, powerless. Maybe I was in over my head. Maybe fighting an HOA, this HOA, was a battle I couldn't win. But then something else kicked in. Call it spite. Call it survival. Call it finally remembering that I'm a damn cartographer who documents land for a living. I stepped back, took a breath, and made 2 calls. The first was to the sheriff's office, calm, precise, factual. The second was to environmental management, attaching photos of the trench spilling sediment toward the protected creek running along my eastern boundary. Then I went to retrieve the best weapon in any land dispute, evidence. I had video from my security camera, time-stamped, showing Priscilla dragging out my property stake with a pair of salad tongs. I had the GIS parcel overlay from the county. I had the deed, the survey, the metadata on her forged Eagle letter, which literally listed her as the document author. By the time I walked back outside, the convoy of officers was rolling in. 2 sheriff's deputies, a county code enforcement officer, and a state environmental inspector with a tablet and the energy of a man ready to ruin someone's day. We all walked the boundary. I handed them every document. The deputies examined everything while Priscilla paced behind us, insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that the HOA had jurisdictional authority, and that she was acting for community safety. The contractor foreman looked sick when the deputies asked who authorized the work. Priscilla Mott, he admitted. She had shown him the pastel brochure as proof. The inspectors and deputies looked at her like she'd just claimed to own the moon. The sheriff asked slowly if she had any legal documentation granting her authority over my land. Court order, recorded easement, anything. She held up the Eagle letter and her laminated HOA badge. The deputy's eyebrows went up. The engines went silent. The code enforcement officer slapped a bright yellow stop work notice onto the bulldozer blade. Then came the environmental inspector's turn. He pointed at the newly cut trench bleeding sediment toward the creek. "Did you obtain an environmental review before starting excavation within 50 feet of a protected tributary?" Priscilla said, "It's just a beautification project." He wrote so fast I thought the stylus might snap. "Unauthorized land disturbance, sediment control violation, unpermitted grading across a property boundary, criminal mischief over $5,000. Priscilla's face drained of color, one citation at a time. When the sheriff finished reviewing the fake emergency order, he tapped it with his finger and told her, "Ma'am, this is not a legal document. This is a decorative piece of paper." Then he explained in excruciating detail how submitting a forged order and filing a false 911 call is a criminal act. Priscilla started rambling about property values and community stewardship, but the deputies cut her off, and in the kind of quiet that makes time stop, they placed her in handcuffs. The HOA president champion of shrub trimming, warrior of mailbox compliance, dictator of decorative rock sizes, was led away in the back of a patrol car. And behind her the HOA board just stood, frozen protein shakes in hand, jaws on the pavement. The contractor was ordered to restore the land immediately. Every roll of sod had to be dragged back across Juniper Bend's perfectly manicured lawns. Which karma, being what it is, left deep muddy tracks straight through Priscilla's prized hydrangeas and across the commemorative stepping stone with her name engraved on it. 1 month later, the courtroom overflowed with residents. Some supported her. Most just wanted to watch. The prosecutor laid everything out calmly: the forged document, the false police report, the environmental violations, the property destruction, the video of her yanking my steak with salad tongs. People tried not to laugh. They failed. The judge was not amused. She hammered Priscilla with consequences. Full restitution to me, $18,000. Environmental fines for the HOA, $75,000. Mandatory restoration of the watershed area for the next 3 years. 80 hours of environmental community service. A 2-year ban from serving on any HOA board in the state, and a written apology published in the local paper. When the judge finished sentencing, Priscilla didn't argue, didn't speak, didn't even blink. She just stood there, staring at the floor, the same laminated HOA badge still clipped to her athletic jacket, the ultimate symbol of her authority, now completely worthless. And that's where my story ends. Not with cheering, not with celebration, just with the quiet realization that people like Priscilla don't crumble loudly. They crumble when the rules they weaponize finally turn around and point right back at them. Sometimes the loudest person in the neighborhood only stays loud until the truth shows up with a badge.